Let's take a couple of minutes and we'll check out the audio settings on Pioneer's AVH-290BT. So I have the AM/FM radio source on right now. Any source will do. And we'll touch the gears up here. And then we want to go to the speaker, which is our audio settings. First up is the graphic EQ, and we can select the graphic EQ here and make some adjustments. But if you want more information about how to adjust the graphic EQ, be sure to check out the full graphic EQ video. We'll go back up here. And the next two settings are rear speaker and pre-out. You can see that they are grayed out. We can't get to those settings, at least not with a source turned on. So let's go and switch the source off. I'm going to go out to my home screen here and choose to switch off the source. Now I'm going to go back to the gears and the speaker, which is my audio settings, and you can see that rear speaker is now available and pre-out is now available. So the rear speaker setting right now is set to full range output, which means it'll play all the frequencies from the rear speakers. And pay attention here to the fader and balance control. It shows both a fader and balance right now. If I switch the rear speaker output to subwoofer, the system is capable of operating a small subwoofer on its speaker outputs on the rear speaker outputs. When I do that, my fader and balance control switches to balance only. Since the rear speakers aren't playing full range, they're only subwoofer, we don't have a fader and a fader control, only a balance. So for right now, I'm going to keep the rear speakers set to full range output. And my RCA pre-outs for running external amplifiers. This system has two sets of pre-outs, front and rear output, or front and subwoofer output. So right now we're set to front and subwoofer output, or we could have this set as front and rear output. Now, if you want to have a subwoofer control built into the audio system here, you want to set this pre-out as subwoofer output. So you'll have front output and subwoofer output. Now, once we've made those adjustments to the rear speaker and pre-out, let's switch a source back on so we can get to the rest of the audio settings. And I'm going to choose the auxiliary input, and we'll touch the gears up here, and we are right back to the audio settings. And our next setting is the fader and balance control. So we'll touch the fader and balance control, and here you have control over fade and balance. And remember, you have control over fade and balance because our rear speaker output is set to full range. And you can touch anywhere on the screen here to move that around. Once you've made the adjustments there that make you happy, we'll go back up. And then our next setting is the loudness control. We'll open the loudness window, and we really have four settings for loudness: low, mid, high, and off. Choose the loudness setting that works best for you. You can switch it off or choose any of the other settings. I'm going to choose the low setting for right now. We'll go back up. Let's scroll down to the next page. First up is our source level adjuster, and we'll open that. Now, we chose the auxiliary source when we started up the system here, and that's why we have the auxiliary source selected under our source level adjuster. And here, we can make the auxiliary source a little louder or a little quieter as compared to FM. So you have a source level adjuster available for each source other than FM. So USB, Bluetooth audio, you'll have a source level adjuster available for each of those, and we adjust this as compared to the volume level of FM. When you're on the AM/FM radio source, we'll go there and back to the settings. You'll see that our source level adjuster is grayed out because we can't compare it FM to FM. You have to compare it to another source. So we'll go back to auxiliary here and back into our audio settings, and there's our source level adjuster. So for right now, we're going to make the auxiliary just a little louder than the level of FM. We'll go back up. Next up is our bass booster control, and here we can add a little more bottom into the system, or we can roll it back. We'll set it back down to 0 for right now, and back up. Next up is our high pass filter. And the high pass filter lets higher frequencies pass through to our speakers, and these are the crossover points that we can choose for the high pass filter. We can choose to have the high pass filter switched off and play full range frequencies through our speakers, or we can have a crossover point, and for right now we're going to choose 80 Hertz as our crossover point for our high pass filter. We'll go back up here. Next up is our subwoofer and our subwoofer settings. So you can see that the subwoofer settings are grayed out right now and we can't get to those settings. That's because we have the subwoofer switched off. So we're going to switch the subwoofer on, and now we can get to the subwoofer settings. So we'll open that window. First thing we'll look at here is the frequency. We just set the high pass filter frequency. This is the low pass filter frequency for the subwoofer. And you can choose anywhere between 50, 63, 80, 100, and 125 hertz. For right now, we're going to choose 80 hertz as our crossover point for our subwoofer. Next up is the phase control. This is the normal and this is the reverse phase. In your vehicle, be sure to test out both the normal and the reverse phase for your subwoofer output. You may be surprised that one works and performs much better than the other. And finally, we have the level control for our subwoofer, where we can add a little more subwoofer output, or we can take a little subwoofer output out of the system. And when you're done making your audio adjustments, you can just hit the X to escape.